Okay, new topic today. New kinds of problems. They don't look like new kinds of problems, but it's going to end up being that way. So there's two answers to the equation. We know this because we have x to the second power, but we've also got this x right here that's not to the second. So the equation needs to be set. We need set with boxes, okay? And it's already set. Now I draw the boxes. Now, all of these are going to end up with three terms, okay? So because there's three, we set up our GCF box. And then our T-chart table box. Okay, so remember the GCF steps. You check for the negative in front, you check for X on everything, then you go to the GCF itself. Now, the negative is not in front of the first number, so we don't need that. We don't have X on, we have X second, we have X to the first, and then we don't have X there, so we would not put an X. Now the GCF for 2, 1, and 7, let me get my GCF calculator up. Is 1, okay? So since our GCF's 1, okay, we don't do it, okay? We only do it with 1 if it has an X or a negative. So I go A, B, C, and the same thing applies. We take the A times the C, so 2 times negative 7, positive 2 times negative 7 is negative 14. Okay, so I got a negative right there, so that means I would minus. But here's the problem. We're trying to minus to get 1, which is negative. 1 and 14. 14 minus 1 is 13, so I can't use that. Divided by 2 is 7. 7 minus 2 is 5, so we can't use that. Divided by 3 is a decimal. Divided by 4 is another decimal. 14 divided by 5 is a decimal. 14 divided by 6 is a decimal. And then I wouldn't do 7. I'd stop because 7 I already have on my table. So guess what? This failed me. Okay, it hasn't failed me yet, but it fails me here. So I'm going to put F-A-I-L, means fail. So we still got to get these two answers, though. So instead of doing parentheses, which we're not able to do, we're not able to factor this, we have to use the quadratic formula that we went over yesterday. So remember, I'll sing it. Opposite of B, plus or minus the square root, B squared. Squared means second power, okay? That's what squared means. B squared minus 4AC, B squared minus 4AC over 2A, over 2A. So squared means second power, remember that. So I just write down the formula, okay? Opposite of B, plus or minus, put the plus minus on top of each other. The square root, B squared means second power, minus 4AC. And those 4AC go right together. There's no signs between the parentheses. Over 2A. Over 2A. Good. Now we got to get rid of these letters, okay? So the opposite of B, okay? B is negative 1. Now we're not going to put any X's here, okay? Just put the numbers. No X's. No X's, no X's, no X's, no X's, no X's, okay? Well, B is negative 1, so the opposite of negative 1 would be positive 1. So I just get rid of that and I put 1. Okay, B to the second. Well, we get rid of B, and B is negative 1, so I go negative 1. Don't get rid of the parentheses. You still want that. Then 4, that's good. We have a number there. A, get rid of A. And A is positive 2. And we get rid of C. C is negative 7. Okay? You got to make sure you get the 7 in as negative 7. And then we also have this A down here, so A is 2. Okay, and here's how I get my two answers. First, I take 2 times 2, okay, on the bottom. 2 times 2 is 4. So we get rid of this, and we just put 4. Now, we got to figure out what this square root is equal to. Okay? So remember, and by the way, one thing, shoot. You need to put, before you punch it into your calculator, you need 2 parentheses at the start. Okay? You need those 2. So I go second, and then to get to the square root, we go 4 buttons from the bottom. And then we need, the first parentheses comes up automatically, but then I need a second one right next to it, going the same way, always. And then my first number is -1, so I go -1, and then I close my parentheses, and then I take it to the second power. To do the second power, you can just hit the button 4 buttons up, but you don't have to hit second. Just hit that button, and a second power comes up. And then minus, I hit a subtraction sign, not the negative sign. That's got to be the minus sign. And then a parentheses 4, a parentheses 2, and a parentheses -7. And I get 7.54. Go 2 digits past the decimal. And then you can cross that out. Now, to get the first answer, you type in 1 and hit plus. And then 7.54, then you have to hit equals 8.54, but that's not the answer you want to write because you have to divide by the number on the bottom, which is 4. So divided by 4 is 2.13. So that's my first answer. Now, after I write my first answer, the other answer isn't just -2.13. To find the other answer, you get rid of the plus sign because we just did that. Now we hit 1, and then I hit minus. Do this on your calculator with me. And then 7.54 hit equals, but don't write that answer because you have to hit divided by because the whole line means divided by. Then the number on bottom is 4. So -1.63. If you go one higher, it's the same thing. So these are the 2 answers. All these problems where the T-chart fails, you're going to get decimals. Okay, my next problem, 3x to the second power minus 5x plus 1 equals 0. There's 2 answers. Do you have any x's not to the second? Yeah, right there. Okay. So the method you use to solve is the set and boxes method. You need to set it, which it is, and then my boxes, which boxes do I need? Well, again, we have 3 terms. So again, it's GCF, and then my AC table. So the GCF, 3 things we look at. When we're deciding what to divide by, we always check for 3 things: the negative, the x, and then the GCF itself. Okay, I don't need negative because 3 is not negative. I don't need x because I have x to the second with 3, x to the first with 5, and no x with the 1, so no x anywhere. GCF 3, 5, and 1, it's going to be 1 because 1's one of the numbers I'm looking at. So if the GCF's 1, we don't worry about that. Okay, now I take +3 times +1. Well, that's +3, so this one would be an add to try to get to 5, which is negative. So 1 and 3. 3 plus 1 is not 5, so I can't use that. 3 divided by 2 is a decimal. And then after 2 comes 3, but I already have 3 on the other side of the table. So if I divide by a number that I already have on the other side of the table and I haven't found it yet, then it's failed. Okay? So I use my quadratic formula. Opposite of b, plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4ac. Remember, squared means second power, over 2a, over 2a. Okay, now get rid of all the variables. The opposite of b, the opposite of -5 is 5. Don't put x with it, just the number. And then b to the second. Well, b is -5. So I get rid of this and I put -5. Still in parentheses, though. Then we got a 4. That's good. Now, A is 3. And C is positive 1 this time. So you just put a 1 there if it's positive. Now, on the bottom, you got A, and we know our A is 3. Okay? So here's the first thing I do. I take 2 times 3. And that's 6. Okay? So cross that out and put 6. That's the only number you want down there. Now we have to figure out our square root. And again, you need 2 parentheses at the beginning when you punch this in on your calculator. So I go second and then 4 buttons. 1 parentheses comes up. I need a second one just like it. And then I start plugging in -5, -5, close the parentheses. Second power, that's 4 buttons from the bottom. Just hit the key. You don't hit second. Minus, got to be the minus sign here, not the negative. And then parentheses 4, parentheses 3, parentheses 1, and click equals. 3.60. Okay. Then I hit 5 plus 3.60. Hit equals. Don't write that answer down because you have to divide by 6. Divide 6. Okay. 1.43. By the way, you're wondering, what does ANS means? It means it takes the answer and divides it for you. Okay, now the plus is gone. Now I have to do the minus. So 5 minus 3.60. Hit equals. And then we want to take 1.4 divided by 6. So just hit divide by 6. It'll take the 1.4. ANS means 1.4. Divide by 6, 0.23. Okay, my next problem, there's 2 answers. Do we have any x's not to the second power? Yeah, right there. So we have to use the set boxes method. You can't use x squared equals, which would be nice. It's a lot quicker, but... Okay, so it's set. I see 0. And then what boxes do I need? It's 3 again, so that'll be GCF. Followed by my AC table. So remember, GCF, negative x GCF. Okay, I won't need the negative because that's positive. I don't need x because 22 doesn't have it. And then the GCF out of 1, 10, and 22 is 1, so let's abort that. Okay, so I will be taking positive 1 times positive 22, and that's positive 22. So I see I got a positive, so it's an add, and I'm trying to add to get 10, which is negative. 1 and 22. 1 plus 22 is not 10, okay? 22 divided by 2 is 11. 11 plus 2 is 13, okay? Decimal. Decimal. Hit. You can just hit up and then just go over it with 5. Decimal. Decimal. You're like, when do I have to stop this and just write fail? As soon as you, if you don't find anything until you get to 11, you're good. The last number. Decimal. Whoops, 9. Decimal. Decimal. And then I'm to 11, and I haven't found it yet. Well, I already have 11 on the other side, so this is a fail. Okay, so opposite of B, plus or minus the square root, B squared minus 4AC, B squared minus 4AC over 2A, over 2A. Okay, so the opposite of B. Well, B is negative 10. The opposite would be positive 10. And then I have just B. B is negative 10, so I put negative 10 right there. And then 4. And then A would be 1. And then C would be 22. Okay, and then A would be 1. Well, 2 times 1's 2. That's pretty obvious. Now we got to figure out the square root. Before you do that, always put a second 2 parentheses at the beginning. Otherwise, the calculator will screw it all up. So second, 4 keys from the top, double your parentheses, and then I've got negative 10 as my first number. Close the parentheses. Second power is 4 keys up. Minus, it got to be the minus, not the negative. Parentheses 4. Parentheses 1, parentheses 22. 3.46. Okay, now I'm ready to get my answers. I go 10 plus 3.46, hit equals, and then just hit divide by 2. 6.73. Okay, the plus has been done. Now we minus, okay? 10 minus 3.46 equals, divide by 2, 3.27. Okay, next problem. 2 answers, okay? And there's also that x that isn't to the second, so I have to use the set boxes strategy. So set, you bet we're set. Okay. Three terms again. GCF and on my table. So negative x and GCF. Well, I wouldn't need the negative because 8's positive. I wouldn't need x because 2 doesn't have it. The GCF between 8, 9, and 2. I can't just rely on the 1 rule for this problem. That's 1. So since it's 1, we get rid of it. And I go A, B, C, and I multiply the A to the C. Positive 8 times positive 2 is positive 16. So I got positive, so this is an add trying to get to 9, which is positive. 16 plus 1 is not 9. 16 divided by 2 is 8, so 2, 8. 8 plus 2 is 10. Remember, just because it's close, you can't use it. It's got to be right on. Decimal. Okay, 4 and 4. 4 plus 4 is not 9, though. Okay, also, as soon as I get the same two, here, I'll just go 5 decimal. It's going to fail. All these fail. I'm just showing you how I find that it fails. 7, I already have an 8 in the other column, so I'd stop and write fails. You don't want to keep going forever. Okay, so quadratic formula. Opposite of B, plus or minus D square root, B squared minus 4AC, B squared minus 4AC over 2A, over 2A. So the opposite of B is positive 9, so the opposite is negative 9. And then B got positive 9, just put 9 if it's positive, and then 4A, A is 8. C is positive 2. Just put a 2 if it's positive. Okay, just put the number. Then A is 8. So first we multiply 2 by 8. I got 16 because we want to know the actual number, final number on the bottom of the line. Then I add 2 parentheses there. And I go second, 4 buttons from the top, double. And then 9 to the second, then minus 4, 8, whoops, not 5, 8, and 2. So 4.12, cross that out and write it down. And now we add negative 9 plus 4.12. We got to hit equals, though. And then divided by 16. You got to make sure you hit equals before and then hit divided by 16. Negative 0.30. Okay, Then I go negative 9 minus 4.12, hit equals, then divide by 16, and that's negative 0.82. Sometimes you can get both negative answers, that's fine. Sometimes they're both positive. You just got to let the process work itself out. Now I'm going to get the sheet for the other one, okay, the next page. Okay, I'm back. Okay, two answers. You also have an x not to the second, so we got to go with the set boxes rule. So we are set with the 0. So GCF and table, because there's 3 terms. Okay, negative in front. Nope. X on everything. Nope, not on the negative 5. And then GCF calculate 475. And that's 1. Okay, so I got a GCF of 1, get rid of it. So I take positive 4 times negative 5. I got negative 20. So I got negative 20. It's a minus trying to get to 7, which is negative. Well, 20 minus 1 is not 7. 20 divided by 2 is 10. 10 minus 2 is 8. 20 divided by 3 decimal, then 4. Okay, 4 and 5. 5 minus 4 is 1. And then after 4 comes 5, and I already have 5 on this side of the table. So all that crap fails because that's all the factors. So opposite of b, plus or minus d square root b squared minus 4ac. Remember to get the square of the second power over 2a, over 2a. So the opposite of b is negative 7, so the opposite of negative 7 would be positive 7, so I write 7. And then b itself is negative 7. The b is opposite here, but here it's not. Then 4a, a is 4. And c is negative 5. Okay, and then I also have a here, and a is 4. So I take 2 times 4, which is 8. And now I add a parentheses, and I figure out what that square root is. So I go second, 4 keys up. You need 2 at the start, or it won't work. Negative 7, close it. Second power is 4 keys up. You can just hit it. Minus a 4, another 4, and a negative 5. All that in parentheses, its own parentheses. 11.35. Okay, so first we take 7 plus 11.35. Hit equals, and then divide by the number on the bottom, 8. 2.29. Okay, then I take 7 minus, because the plus is now gone. Okay, plus is gone. Now I take 7 minus 11.35, hit equals, and then divide that just hit divided by 8. Negative 0.54. Okay, next problem. 2 answers. You have an x that isn't to the second power, so again, it's set boxes, and we are set. That's not a problem. So my boxes, GCF, because there's 3 terms, and then the table. Okay, so GCF, negative in front, nope, 3 is positive. X on everything, nope, not on 14. 3, 9, and 14 is a GCF of 1, I believe. Yep, 1. So I take 3 times negative 14. I got negative 42. So again, it's a negative, so that means we're trying to find the factors of 42 that would minus to get 9, 9 being negative. 1 and 42. 42 minus 1 is not 9. That's 41. It's not even close. 2 and 21. 21 minus 2 is not 9. 3 and 14. 14 minus 3 is not 9. So it's 11. Divide by 4, decimal. Hit up, and then just cover the 4 with a 5. Decimal. 6 and 7. Now 7 minus 6 is 1, so it wouldn't be that. And after 6 comes 7, but I already have 7 on the right part of the table. Okay, so that's a fail. I don't keep going. As soon as I get to a number that's already on the right side. Okay, so opposite of b, plus or minus d square root b squared minus 4ac, b squared minus 4ac over 2a over 2a. So the opposite of b is positive 9 because it's negative 9. That's the only one of the anything I put it here. That's the only one that goes opposite. And then b is negative 9. Now from now on you got to label your positives and negatives. To the second power, 4a is positive 3. And c is negative 14. You got to get 14 as a negative, or the whole thing's screwed up. Then a is 3. Okay, 2 times 3 is 6, and then I figure out the square root. Put a parentheses with that right there. So I go second, 4 keys up, 2 parentheses at the beginning. Negative 9, close the first close 1 parentheses, and then seconds 4 keys up. Minus, got to be this key, parentheses 4, parentheses 3, parentheses negative 14. 15.77. Okay, now I only have 3 numbers left. I just got to conduct the operation. So I got 9 plus 15.77 equals, and then divide by 6. 4.12. You can also go 4.13 if you want. I don't care. I'm just going to put. And then 9 minus 15.77 equals, divide by 6. Negative 1.12. Again, you can also go negative 1.13 if you want, but for now I just want you to get. Okay, again, next one, 2 answers. I also have this x not to the second power, so I got to go with the set and boxes. You can't combine the x's. Okay, your set, you have 3 terms. We'd be doing GCF. And then my table. Negative, no. X on everything, no. 5, 1, and 2. Oh, it's 1. 1's in the group, so I can just get rid of that. Okay, so I take positive 5 times negative 2. And that's negative 10. And that's a minus, and in the minus we're trying to get to 1, which is negative. So 1 and 10 doesn't do the job. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 5 minus 2 is 3. Now I divide by 3, decimal. Divide by 4, decimal. And I already have 5 on the other side of the table. So that's a fail. Okay, so opposite of b, plus or minus d square root b squared minus 4ac, b squared minus 4ac over 2a over 2a. Okay, the opposite of b is positive 1 because it's negative 1 up there. Opposite of negative 1 is positive 1. B is negative 1. And then 4a, a is 5. C is negative 2. Make sure you get the negative on the 2. And then 2 times 5, I should add a. A is 5, okay. 2 times 5 is 10, okay? And then we add a parentheses at the beginning. See, I want to add that parentheses so when I calculate it, that first, I just put another, so now it looks just like it's on my paper. Then -1, close it, second power, minus a 4, a 5, and a -2. Okay, 6.40. Okay, so I got 1, and then I hit a plus operation, 6.40. And then I hit equals before I do the other operation, which is divide by 10, 0.74. Then I go 1 minus 6.40, hit equals, and then divide by 10. Cross the plus sign out before you do the minus, okay, so you don't get confused. So 1 minus 6.40 equals, and then divide by 10. When you use a quadratic formula, it's almost always 2 different answers, okay? Don't just make the first one opposite. Okay, last one finally. 2 answers. Set and boxes, because you have this x not to the second power. So we are set. And again, we have 3 terms. GCF, and my t-table. Okay, negative, don't need it. X, don't need it because this last number doesn't have X. Check the last number, see if you have X there, you don't. Okay, 3, 7, and 3. Okay, I just got 1, okay? Okay, so not worth it. Positive 3 times positive 3 is positive 9. I would be trying to add the factors to get 7. Okay. I'm just telling you right now it fails. Okay. I need to wrap this up before my battery dies. Opposite of B, plus or minus D square root, B squared minus 4AC. Remember to get that minus over 2A. Over 2A. So the opposite of B, it's positive 7 this time, so I switch that to -7. Now the B itself here is not the opposite, it just is 7. And then 4, A is 3, C is 3, and C is positive 3, so just 3. And then A is 3. Well, 2 times 3 is 6. I get rid of that, I simplify that bottom right away. Then add a parentheses, and I go second, 4 skis up, and then 7 to the second, minus 4, 3, 3, 3.60. So I go -7 plus 3.60, hit equals, divide by 6. -0.57. Then -7 minus 3.60, divide by 6, -1.76, or 77. Okay, and that's a wrap, Jack.